Episode 8. Time to update a little bit. It's been a few days. Went through some decision making, thinking, narrowing stuff down, realizing that the scope was too large. I wanted to solve every problem that I've ever encountered all at once and try to package that up and sell it. Settled on the idea of sleeping, like I mentioned in the last one, and got some good work on that done. I started the school community, SKOOL community, and began writing. Started with kind of like an intention post, and then realized that the intention wasn't as useful as the practical side of it. So I started working on that instead. And then was like, okay, well, this practical side is great and all, but it's littered with things where, well, it's easier said than done. Yeah, make a sleep schedule. Well, that's hard. Yeah, just get off screens and turn off all the lights an hour before bed. Oh, that's hard. Yeah, just get some exercise. That can be hard for people. And make sure you like sleep. That can be difficult for people. Don't be too hard on yourself. Being anxious at night doesn't help you sleep. That's definitely easier said than done. And then I kind of realized at that point that I'm really trying to hit on issues of addiction. I was trying to address addiction. And so I began writing a post about addiction, habits, and rituals. And that immediately ballooned to triple the size of every other post I'd made so far. And so I kind of was, I was really, really onto that one. I was like, oh, this is where I like to be. This is where it's easy to just talk, just like, well, here's where, in my experience, here's where addiction comes from. Here's the major points of contention, particularly around craving, guilt, and shame. And I'm talking about shame and guilt and how to address those things, and the way of really getting to guilt and shame is not to avoid the things, but to ask yourself where it's coming from. Because guilt, to me, usually comes with a sentence that sounds something like, man, I should really get off my phone. Or, man, I should really go exercise. And it's always the should. There's always a should, where I'm just like, yeah, well, I could do this, but scroll, 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 And to me, that is a golden opportunity. Because once you recognize that those shoulds are coming from deeply held values, not just for no reason, there are things that you believe about yourself, that you believe about the ideal version of yourself, that's within you already. It's there. It's shouting at you with those shoulds, with that guilt. It's demanding attention, and yet we turn away from it because it hurts to feel guilty. And that's valid. I understand that. It plagues me to this day. I still feel guilty about things always. I'm not saying I'm perfect. But being able to recognize that guilt comes from somewhere, that guilt comes from a belief we hold about ourselves and good people and what kind of people we would actually aspire to be, whether or not we understand it that way, affords us a path to go down. We already know where we want to be. That's why this guilt manifests in these should statements. Anyway, I was able to write mountains about that kind of stuff. And so I was thinking to myself more like, okay, well, what other kind of posts would I write about this? And then I realized that addiction, habits, and ritual classroom post had almost no mention of sleep at all. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. Okay. We've got something here that transcend sleep. But now I'm at a crossroad. Do I refocus? Do I zoom out just a little bit? Well, quite a bit actually. From addressing sleep and adjacently approaching the unconscious. Hey, Jungian quote right there. And then just have a sleep community? Or do I zoom out for real and just talk about addressing the unconscious and practical ways of taking advantage of that to solve your own problems, that kind of thing? I noticed a vast majority of the large paid groups are one of three things, especially for spirituality: manifestation, sleeping with girls, and getting shredded or masculinity in general. I spend a lot of time considering how other people feel, which is a double-edged sword. When it comes to dating and relationships, I am not normal. People are beautiful. Our minds are bottomless. At least to our own observation. Even my own mind is bottomless to me. So thinking for even a moment about how that applies to other people is, well, downright brings me to tears if I really sit down and think about it. That's what I think about that. Insulting another person by thinking they are anything less than I am just does not make sense to me, because they're a whole ass person. They're a whole ass rational, conscious being. That's insane. That is, like, I can sit and think about just that. The fact that there are other conscious beings. Fucking don't, I get it. Simulation theory, fine. The only consciousness that I can prove exists is my own, whatever, sure, those thought experiments are fun. Disregarding those thought experiments where other conscious beings are either figments of my own imagination or of a computer program, or are, I don't know, hallucinations or simulations is all I can really come up with right now. Anyway, disregarding that, the sheer beauty that is encapsulated by something that is able to recognize itself, recognizing itself, is, I will actually break down in joyful, wailing, hysterical, laughing, and crying at the same time, because trying to approach that is the thing that's connected to life and dying and memory and meaning and spirituality. Like, all of those things arise right next to the idea of being conscious. So anyway, I think I can really talk about that for a long time, because I want to go 20 directions right now, but I know that I can't do that, not on this, less than 15-minute YouTube video. I can't put it in that little tiny space. And so my plan with this idea is to run with it, and instead of talking about, oh, sleeping, or this is how you sleep better, it'll be like, man, I don't want to be one of the 25. Find your higher self and align with your chakras and attain enlightenment spirit guru being in this lifetime and also make $1 million. I don't want to do that. It's cringy enough as it is. I feel like we can find something that's closer to practicality than spirituality, and use these same ideas in a more down-to-earth sense than buy my course and I'll teach you how to manifest $150,000 right now, this instant. it'll just appear in your bank. Like, fucking no. I do not deny that that may be possible because this world is fucking insane. But from my experience, that hasn't been very truthful. What I think I need to do, first of all, is figure out a way to tie in the dream of every young man that they've been sold over their adolescence when they had unlimited access to pornography and short form video content and people being rich on the internet very publicly, and figure out how to hook their attention and then sell them the idea of like, well, explore your beliefs, explore how you feel when you do actions that achieve a certain ends, but analyze where that ends falls in your pool of values, and then tell me if that really does float to the top and you really care about it, or sink to the bottom and fade into irrelevance, or merely as like a tool of perspective that you're allowed to use in circumstances or for some greater ends that you care about deeper than that one. You know, like, what I mean to say is, how can I hook the wannabe Playboy entrepreneurs and tell them, are you sure you want mad bitches and millions of dollars, or do you want one, maybe two bitches and enough to feed them and your family? You know what I mean? Like, just I also, at the same time, I don't want to limit people either. I don't want to like be like, hey, yeah, no, you don't need to try that hard, man. Just calm down. It's okay. But not, I don't think everybody really, really wants to be a millionaire. I think everybody just wants to have a circle, have a community, have their immediate family and potentially dependents for who they can interact with on a regular basis and cultivate the growth of and experience genuine connection with all the time, rather than these facsimiles of connection that we've been sold in influence, sex, and money as the arbiters of everything. Anyway, please, I'd love to hear any, like, tell me what you think. Thank you for listening.